I wasn't supposed to be in her kitchen that late. The overhead light hummed, pale against the dusk outside, and she was standing there barefoot, one hand resting on the counter like she was steadying herself against the silence. She looked at me, not directly, but in that sideways glance that stays with you. I haven't danced in years, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, more like a confession that slipped out by mistake. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. I didn't know what to say. 20-something and stupidly aware of every detail, the chipped mug beside her, the faint trace of perfume mixed with the smell of coffee going stale. I laughed, too quickly, filling the quiet. You mean, like dancing? I asked, already regretting the dumbness of it. Her eyes flicked up, amused but tired. Is there another kind? I should have looked away, but I didn't. The silence stretched, her breathing soft but deliberate, like she was testing whether I'd flinch first. I didn't. She pushed the mug aside with her fingertips. The scrape of ceramic against counter was louder than either of us expected. Music doesn't sound the same when you're alone, she said. My mouth went dry. I wanted to ask alone since when, but the question felt too close to a wound I hadn't earned the right to touch. Instead, I shifted on the stool, fingers tightening around the glass of water I hadn't even sipped. You could dance now, I said, and immediately wished I hadn't. It sounded boyish, too eager. Her smile was small, like the kind you give someone who doesn't understand yet. Then, without warning, she crossed the kitchen. Her hand brushed my sleeve, light but deliberate, and I swear my entire body went rigid from that single touch. You don't know what you're asking, she said, almost whispering. But she didn't pull back. Her hand lingered, just enough to make me forget the room, the glass, the hour. I wanted to say something clever, something older than my years, but all I managed was, "Show me." That did it. Her laugh was sharp, short, like she was startled by her own reaction. She shook her head but kept her hand near mine, thumb grazing the fabric. Then she turned and walked down the short hallway, not looking back. I followed. Her bedroom door was already open, though I couldn't remember seeing it that way before. The room was dim, just the streetlight cutting through half-drawn blinds. She didn't move toward the bed. She stopped in the center of the room, where the carpet looked worn down in a square, as if someone once danced there often. She faced me. No music, she said. Just listen. To what? My pulse? The way the air thickened? I stepped closer, unsure of my own breath. She took my hand, cool skin, firm grip, and placed it at her waist like it was nothing. Like this was ordinary. But nothing about it was ordinary. I was suddenly aware of how much taller I stood, how close her mouth was when she tilted her face upward. She didn't lean in, didn't kiss me, just let the space vibrate with what could happen. We moved barely. A sway, a shift of weight. Her hair brushed my chin. Her eyes, closed now, made me realize this wasn't for me, it was for her. And I was just allowed to be there. I didn't speak. Neither did she. The room creaked, the world held still. And then, softly, she whispered, "Don't tell me you're already nervous." Her words lingered in the dark, curling through the silence like smoke. Don't tell me you're already nervous. I swallowed too hard, too audibly, and tried to cover it with a laugh. She didn't smile this time. Her face was close enough that I could see the faintest crease near her mouth, the kind that only shows up after years of smiling at things you don't entirely find funny anymore. I didn't answer. Maybe she liked that I didn't. We stayed in that swaying almost dance until the movement slowed to nothing, our bodies nearly touching, not quite. She was the one to step back first, though not far. Her hand slipped from my waist but brushed down my arm on the way, fingertips dragging against skin through my shirt. She sat on the edge of the bed like she needed to steady herself. "I don't usually let people in here," she said, staring at the floor. The words felt heavier than the moment. I lowered myself into the chair by her window, pretending it was casual. "Not even friends?" "Not anymore." Her eyes flicked toward me, then away. "You get tired of explaining yourself?" Easier to keep the door shut. I wanted to ask explaining what, but she already looked fragile enough, and I wasn't sure I could take it if she shut down. So I just nodded like I understood, though I didn't. She shifted, pulling one knee up onto the bed, arms folding around it. For a second she looked younger, the posture softening her age into something vulnerable. Marriage does that to you, she added, almost like a correction. Or ending one, I should say. That caught me. I hadn't asked, but I'd wondered. She must have seen the question on my face. 12 years, she said, quiet. He left when he realized he wanted something lighter. A bitter laugh. Younger. The air tightened. I had no idea where to look. My hands gripped my knees like I was holding myself still. Younger. The word clanged in my chest because that was me, sitting in her bedroom, too young, too much like the ghost she'd been left for. I'm sorry, I said, though it sounded inadequate, like apologizing for the weather. Her shoulders lifted in a shrug. It was a long time ago. Doesn't matter. But her voice betrayed her, thin, breakable at the edges. Silence filled the room. The kind that makes you hear your own breathing, your own heartbeat. I shifted in the chair, restless, and when I looked up she was watching me, eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. You should be careful, she said. People talk. The words landed between us like a warning. My throat tightened. Talk about what? You. Me. The age. It wouldn't look right. I wanted to tell her I didn't care. That what was happening in this room didn't belong to anyone else. But the way she hugged her knee tighter told me she cared, at least enough for both of us. Her hand moved, absent, brushing her own shoulder like she was cold. Without thinking, I leaned forward. Here, I said, and before I could talk myself out of it, my fingers rested on her arm. Just a touch, warmth meeting cool skin. She didn't move away. Her eyes closed briefly, the kind of blink that lingers too long to be accidental. When she opened them again, she looked at me differently, not like a neighbor, not like a kid. You notice things, she said, almost accusing. I felt my face heat. What do you mean? Her mouth curved but faintly. The way you stare when you think I don't see. The pauses when I walk too close. She leaned in, her breath brushing my cheek. You notice. My grip on her arm tightened before I could stop it. Every nerve in my body felt like it was betraying me. I wanted to pull her closer. I wanted to run. But she pulled back first, standing, putting space between us. We shouldn't, she whispered. The room pulsed with that unfinished sentence, as if shouldn't could unravel into anything. I stood too, but didn't step closer. The distance itself was unbearable. And then, unexpectedly, she reached out, fingers brushing my jaw, just once. Quick, tentative, but real. My breath caught, hers did too, and for a suspended moment we stood locked in a silence thicker than any words could fill. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. But nothing in me felt the same anymore. Her touch still burned on my jaw when the sharp buzz of her phone shattered the silence. We both jumped. The glow lit up the dresser across the room, her screen pulsing with a name I didn't recognize. She moved first, crossing quickly, snatching it up before I could see more. Her back was to me, shoulders stiff. It's nothing, she said too fast, slipping the phone into her pocket. The quiet afterward was unbearable. I could hear the rush of my own pulse, like I'd been caught doing something wrong even though nothing had happened. Not really. When she turned back, her face was composed again, but not enough. She was flustered, her hands smoothed her hair, fingers trembled at the ends. I almost laughed at the absurdity. You always this jumpy? I said, trying to lighten it. Her eyes narrowed, though not with anger. You don't get it, she murmured. We can't be. She stopped herself, biting the word before it left her mouth. The distance between us felt charged, magnetic. She was close enough now that I could see the tiny scar at her temple, the faint line of tiredness under her eye. Real, human details. Things no one else would notice. Then why let me in? I asked, voice low. Her breath caught. She opened her mouth, closed it, and finally whispered, "Because I wanted to remember what it was like." The words landed like a confession, bare and unguarded. We didn't move for several beats. Just watched each other. Her lips parted like she was about to add something, but nothing came. Instead, she took one slow step toward me. The air changed. Heavy, waiting. I stood, almost instinctively. We were level now, her chin tilted slightly to meet my gaze. I could smell her, faintly floral, faintly wine from earlier. "You should leave," she said, but her voice didn't carry the weight of someone who meant it. "I could," I answered. My throat was dry. "Do you want me to?" Her silence was louder than words. Her hand lifted, hovering near my chest, but she pulled it back before touching. The hesitation itself was intoxicating. And then, just as she leaned closer, there was a sharp knock at the front door. We froze. Neither of us breathed. The knock came again, followed by a muffled voice. "Hey, you home?" A man's voice. She jerked back, pressing a finger to her lips. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. We stood there, caught in the middle of a moment that could destroy us if the door opened. "I'll handle it," she whispered. Her hand brushed against mine briefly as she slipped past, unintentional but electric. I listened as she moved down the hallway, her voice shifting into something casual, almost cheerful. A few short exchanges, small talk, polite, dismissive. Then the door closed, footsteps returning. When she came back, her cheeks were flushed, her chest rising and falling too quickly. "Neighbor," she explained, voice tight. We both knew it was more than that. The interruption had cracked something open. Before I could stop myself, I said, "You were going to kiss me." Her eyes flared, then narrowed. "Don't," she warned. But she didn't step away. Instead, she moved closer again, so close the edge of her shirt brushed against me. My hand twitched at my side, aching to touch her. She tilted her face up, lips parted, but stopped just short, so near I could feel the warmth of her breath. We didn't kiss. We couldn't. But in that stillness, with the memory of the knock fading into silence, we were pulled tighter than before. Two people straining against a line they both knew would break, sooner or later. The silence after the knock still buzzed in my ears. She was standing too close, her body angled toward me like gravity had made the decision for her. Every part of me screamed to close the last inch. Her eyes wouldn't leave mine. Then, finally, she spoke. "You shouldn't look at me like that." Her tone was sharp, but her voice cracked at the end. I swallowed hard. "Like what?" "Like I'm someone you could want." The words stunned me. My laugh came out rough, bitter. "Could? That's all I've been doing." Her lips parted, shock, denial, maybe both. She stepped back, shaking her head. "You don't know what you're saying." But I did. More than I could admit. The weight of it pressed against my chest, made my hands restless at my sides. "I notice everything about you," I said, lower now, stepping toward her. "The way you tuck your hair when you're nervous. The way you don't finish your sentences when you're about to say something real. I notice." Her breath hitched. My hand moved before I thought, fingers brushing that loose strand of hair from her cheek, tucking it back behind her ear. Her skin was warm, softer than I expected. She didn't pull away. "You don't get it," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "This isn't safe for either of us." "Safe," I repeated, my thumb grazing her temple. "You think I care about safe right now?" Her chest rose quickly, almost trembling. She leaned in, just enough that her forehead touched my shoulder. The weight of her there made everything inside me fracture. My hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her without pressure, just presence. "Don't make me do this," she murmured into my shirt. "Don't make me want this." I bent slightly, my lips near her ear. "You already do." Her sharp inhale told me I wasn't wrong. She lifted her head, face inches from mine. Her hands had found their way to my chest, clutching the fabric like it anchored her. We stood like that, locked, her breath mingling with mine, both of us trembling with the risk of what would happen if we closed the gap. Then, all at once, she shoved me lightly, palms still pressed to my chest. God, why you? Why now? Her voice cracked with something raw of fear, anger, desire tangled together. She was breaking open right in front of me. I caught her wrists gently, holding them between us. Because you've been alone too long, I said. Because I can't stop thinking about you. The words spilled out, unstoppable now. I hear you laugh through the wall. I wait for your blinds to open in the morning. I stopped, biting down hard. I'd said too much? Her mouth trembled. For a moment I thought she'd push me away for good. But instead, she whispered, Do you have any idea what people would say? I don't care. I shot back. Do you? Her silence was deafening. Her eyes brimmed with something I couldn't name, fear or surrender. Maybe both. Slowly, almost painfully, she slid her hands up from my chest to my shoulders. My breath caught. Her body leaned closer, until her lips hovered so close I could feel the ghost of their heat against mine. Neither of us moved. The pause was unbearable, stretched thin, like glass about to crack. And then she whispered, voice shaking but certain. If you kiss me, everything changes. Her whisper still clung to the air. If you kiss me, everything changes. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My chest was tight, my breath shallow, and all I wanted was to close the last inch. But before I could move, her phone buzzed again. Loud in the stillness. She flinched this time, stepping back as if the vibration itself burned her. The spell broke, leaving both of us raw and exposed. Don't, she said, holding up a hand as if to keep me at distance. She fished the phone from her pocket. This time she didn't turn away. I saw the name flash across the screen, Mark. Her thumb hovered over it. She didn't answer. Didn't decline either. Just let it ring until it died. Who's Mark? I asked, voice lower than I intended. Her jaw tightened. My ex. I blinked. The one who, yes. She cut me off, too quickly. Then, softer, almost guilty. He's been calling again. Stopping by. The neighbor's voice at the door earlier clicked into place. Him. The realization hit harder than I expected. I stepped back, trying to swallow it, but my body betrayed me, hands clenched, shoulders tense. So that's who was here. She didn't deny it. Just pressed her fingers to her forehead, pacing a short circle. It's complicated. Complicated. The word stung. Are you? I stopped myself. Too jealous too soon. Do you still want him? Her head snapped up. No. God, no. Her voice cracked. But he doesn't let go easy. And if he knew you were. She faltered, eyes flicking to me, then away. Here? I finished for her. Her silence was confirmation enough. I dragged a hand through my hair, restless, the walls of her bedroom closing in. So I'm, what? Some stupid risk you can't afford? She moved toward me, quick, almost desperate. Her hand brushed my arm, barely, but enough to send a rush of heat through me. Don't say that. You don't understand. He'd use this against me. Against you. Her touch lingered, trembling now. She wasn't pushing me away. She was holding on, like my sleeve was the only solid thing in the room. I should have stepped back. Instead, I leaned down, close enough that my voice brushed her cheek. Then why let me this close? Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her breathing was shallow, matching mine. For a second, her forehead pressed against my chin, just barely. Her body's answer betrayed her words. I whispered, because you want me. Her grip on my arm tightened. She didn't say no. But the fear was there, sharp in her silence. I felt it in the way her body leaned forward, then tensed, as if she was about to break away. You don't know what you're getting into, she murmured finally. Her hand slid down my arm as she stepped past me toward the window. The distance was unbearable. I turned, watching her silhouette against the blinds, faint light tracing her outline. She pressed her palms to the sill, back rigid, shoulders trembling. "I thought I was done being seen," she said quietly. "Done being wanted." She turned slightly, her face in shadow. "And then you. You walk in here, and suddenly I can't breathe." My chest ached at the confession. I crossed the room slowly, deliberately. Each step made her body stiffen, but she didn't move away. When I reached her, I stopped just behind, so close I could feel the heat of her body through the inches between us. My hand lifted, hovering before finally brushing her hair aside, fingertips grazing the back of her neck. She shivered. "You're not done," I said, voice low against her ear. Her head tilted back the slightest bit, exposing her throat, her breath unsteady. "You don't know how dangerous this is." "I don't care." The words were out before I could stop them. My hand slid down, resting against her waist. She gasped softly, leaning back into me for the briefest second before catching herself. The sound of her phone buzzing again shattered the moment. She spun, eyes wide, chest heaving, standing flush against me now. We froze, bodies pressed close, her breath brushing my mouth. Either of us spoke. And in that silence, one truth became undeniable: there was no turning back. Her phone kept buzzing between us, a pulse in the dark. She didn't move to answer. Didn't even look at it. Her eyes were locked on mine, wide, wild, as if the choice was tearing her in half. "Say something," I whispered. My voice shook more than I wanted it to. Her lips parted, but nothing came out at first. Finally, she rasped, "If I give in to this, I don't get to take it back." I swallowed hard. My hand was still at her waist. I felt her tremble under my palm, though she stood her ground. "Then don't take it back." Her chest rose sharply, brushing against me with every breath. Inches separated us, just inches, but the air between felt unbearable. "You're too young," she murmured, eyes flicking down to my mouth before darting away. "I'll hate myself for it." My throat tightened. "And if you don't?" Her silence was its own answer. I leaned closer, not touching, just enough for my breath to graze her cheek. "I can't keep pretending I don't want you." Her hands came up, pressing against my chest like she meant to push me away. But her fingers curled instead, clutching at the fabric, pulling me closer without meaning to. "I told myself I'd never." She stopped, voice breaking. Her forehead pressed against mine now, skin hot, damp with the tension neither of us could escape. "Never what?" I asked, my lips barely brushing hers with the question. Her whisper was almost inaudible. "Never let someone this close again." And then the silence broke. Not with words, but with the smallest movement, her tilting her head, closing the last gap that had tormented us for nights, hours, breaths. Our mouths met, tentative at first, then harder, hungrier. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, teeth brushing, her hand trembling at my jaw, my breath uneven in her throat. But it was real. She pulled back an inch, eyes glassy, lips parted. "God," she whispered. "What are we doing?" "Exactly what we both want," I answered, though my voice cracked with the weight of it. She let out a shaky laugh, half sob, half surrender. Her hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek as if memorizing me. "You'll regret this," she said. I shook my head. "No. I'll regret walking away." Her laugh broke again, softer this time, and then she leaned in, pressing her face into my shoulder, breathing me in. My arms wrapped around her without thinking, pulling her against me until there was no space left. For a long moment, we just stayed like that, hearts racing, bodies pressed together, the storm outside of us irrelevant. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, steady now. "You don't make this easy." I pulled back just enough to look at her. "Neither do you." Our eyes locked, and something shifted. The fear was still there, yes, but it was no longer the only thing. Clarity had taken its place too. We both knew it. Whatever came after tonight, there was no pretending anymore. We stayed pressed together for a long time, saying nothing. Her face was tucked into my shoulder, my arms tight around her like I was afraid she'd vanish if I let go. The room had gone still, only the faint hum of the street lights seeping through the blinds. Finally, she exhaled against my collar. I don't know how this is supposed to work. I pulled back just enough to see her face. Her eyes were softer now, not guarded, not defensive. Just tired, and open. Maybe it doesn't have to, I said. Maybe it just is. She gave a half smile, the kind that almost hurt to look at because it was so fragile. You make it sound simple. Maybe it can be, I whispered. My hand found hers without asking, fingers sliding between hers, holding tight. She didn't pull away. We sat on the edge of the bed like that, side by side, our joined hands resting between us. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt different, like a weight had lifted, even if only for tonight. Her thumb brushed my knuckle, slow, absent, as if testing whether I'd notice. I did. And I squeezed her hand in return. I was scared you'd regret it, she admitted, her voice low. I shook my head. I don't. Not for a second. She leaned her temple against mine, eyes closing. The closeness was simple, not frantic now. A quiet certainty replaced the earlier storm. I turned just enough to press a light kiss to her forehead. She let out a shaky breath and smiled into it. People will talk, she murmured. Let them, I said. My thumb traced circles over the back of her hand. They don't get to decide what this is. For the first time that night, she didn't argue. She just nodded slightly, her cheek brushing against me. We stayed like that, not rushing, not reaching for anything more. Just being, together, warm, the quiet, finally something we could share without fear. After a while, she whispered, It feels strange, not being alone in this room. Get used to it, I said, a smile tugging at my mouth. She laughed softly, and the sound, gentle, unguarded, settled something deep inside me. The doubts, the hesitation, even the age gap weight, it all dulled under the truth of that laugh and the way her fingers intertwined with mine. No more words were needed. Not then. We sat there in the dim light, hand in hand, bodies leaning into each other, knowing nothing would ever be quite the same. And for once, neither of us wanted it to be.